Okay, today guys, we are going to take the PHEV and do the same trip that we did before we had our procedure done to the battery. We're going to head out to one of my favorite metal detecting spots. We know that it was 26 kilometers out and the gasometer was only showing 5 kilometers left in electric at that point. Okay, so we would have got 31 kilometers before we had the battery reset. Okay, and as we turn it on, we see the Watchdog app is showing us that we've lost another 0.2 amp hours. Okay, so if we look at our battery status, we are at 98.8%, 39.5 amp hours. And I will reset the tripometer. And we will be in full electric mode the entire way. I'll try to average the same speeds that I did in the last trip. Okay, and we'll see what kind of numbers we get. Okay, so we are here at the metal detecting field and I'll show you the PHEV numbers. 26.3 kilometers is what we just did. And it was in 100% electric, 19.3 kilowatt hours used. And the gasometer is still showing 17 kilometers. So it's showing 12 more kilometers than what it did the day before we had our battery reset done. And in fact, it'll probably be a little bit more than that. I just want to show you guys, we also recorded that entire trip, 30 minutes it took. And I'll just show you. Glide percent, 34, because we were in B0. Regen at 6%. And here's the actual trip stats. I find this a little bit funny that it's saying that the average speed was 52 kilometers an hour because I kept it over 60 on the speedometer. So I think maybe with my winter tires on there, maybe when it shows that I'm doing 60, I'm not. But just in reference, our last trip out here, the average was 51 kilometers. So very similar stats. Today it is 12 degrees Celsius and rainy, and it was 10 degrees and rainy the day before we had the battery reset done. So now, at least for the next month, we're going to get a few extra kilometers out of this. And the guys online have come to the conclusion that I can run this battery down all the way because my battery is still high enough at 70-some% that I shouldn't get any errors. The car will right itself in another month or so. The BMU will calculate and recalculate, and I'll get back to the proper numbers. But they said if I do get any error codes, I can simply push the save button and save my energy when that blue bar. It's so archaic, the system in this car. It doesn't show you percentage, it just shows you a blue bar, right? And so when the blue bar gets down to that bottom third, if I push the save button, it won't allow the car to use any lower of a charge. So that's what we'll do if we get any errors. I haven't gotten any yet, and I drove all the way to Toronto and back before I even knew that this was going to be an issue, that they had done a full reset to the battery instead of the DB cam. I didn't know that at the time, so I used the battery completely down. We didn't get any errors. I think we're going to be okay, but this is the first update. Okay, just heading home, and I thought I might as well show you guys. We just ran out of electric, so I'll give you the final numbers for this trip. I forgot to mention as well that the car has winter tires on it, so when I brought it in for the battery update the other day, they actually swapped my tires, so we've got to take that into effect as well. And remember, this test was not how far can Gary go? Did I baby it doing 40 kilometers an hour? No. I was up doing around 60 kilometers an hour, and these are the numbers we get with the battery reset. So the total trip, 100% electric, 18.4 kilowatt hours used, 40.8 is how far we managed to go. Now I was in B0 coasting that entire way as much as I could coast. But I didn't try to keep the speeds down. I was just driving, up to 70 kilometers an hour. So with winter tires, 40, that's not bad. That's not terrible. Good morning, everybody. We are going to check the PHEV this morning. Today is the 10th day since I had a battery procedure done. Now, as we mentioned in the previous videos, it was not a drive battery capacity automatic measurement, which is the DB cam, which their system would automatically run tests, determine what is the actual battery capacity of my battery, and it would set it to a state. I was at 72% when I brought the battery in. We know that the battery is really not at 72% because Mitsubishi has software which takes off 0.01 amp hours every 10 days or so to protect the battery. Then you have to take your vehicle in once a year and the software resets that fake loss back to whatever your true battery setting should be. And mine was probably around 80, low 80s%. Okay, that's where all PHEVs at the 4.5 year mark are. And if you're running around without having taken it into the dealership lately, you're probably down to 70 or 72%, which is what I was at. So my dealer, actually, the kid that's there working on the car now, he reset the battery, and he's not the only one. I've had many guys online saying they've had the exact same thing done. What happens is now the car thinks it has a new battery, which causes problems with the charging system in the car because the car stops itself from using the bottom 30% battery. Now that it thinks it has a new battery, it uses all that energy down into the safe zone, and it keeps going because it thinks it has more amp hours than it actually does. So 10 days after that reset, I want to hook up the Watchdog app and just see what is my car reading. I've been getting fantastic kilometers out of the car, over 40 every trip now. And the guys online told me it's not an issue if, when I run the battery low, if I don't get any error messages on the car or anything, that over time, driving this car over the next month or so, the internal computer here will be smart enough to do its own measurements, and it will start resetting my car back to where it should be. So let's take a look at what my car thinks the amp hours are at now, 10 days after the reset. Okay, so when we hook up the Watchdog app, it's showing another minus 0.3 amp hours. Let's take a look at our current battery state. Okay, so battery condition here back on the 23rd, we had the reset done with no DB cam up to 99.8%, 39.9 amp hours. And now, as of today, 10 days later, we are at 98%, 39.2 amp hours. So we've dropped 0.7 amp hours in 10 days. So my computer is slowly resetting itself. Okay, so where are we at, guys? Well, we are at, Gary is keeping this vehicle. I have two teenagers, so they are going to be driving this thing. Maybe starting next year. My one daughter is in the process of getting her license right now. Maybe next year or the year after, it's going to be a third vehicle because I'm looking at buying a new vehicle. The problem is I will not buy a regular vehicle anymore. It has to be at a minimum a PHEV. And worst case, best case, / star, full electric. But I live up here in Northern Ontario. It's cold, it's frosty right now. We don't have the infrastructure, I don't believe, yet in place to support a full electric. It's going to be another 3 or 4 years before I would feel comfortable. We've got 2 chargers in town that are free, and one of them has been broken. It was only in place for 1.5 years, and for the last almost year, the 2 chargers are broken and they're not maintaining it. So the problem there is the government got a huge grant, or not the government, sorry, the government gave a huge grant to whatever company, it's beside the YMCA and our sports complex. I think it's the sports complex that owns this. They got a huge grant to put this thing up, and it's all computerized and fancy and the newest thing, and it tracks the sun, and it's like a big flower. It opens and it closes when it's shady. Well, it's putting electricity back into the grid. They're making money from that. They got a grant to put this thing in. Well, the chargers got broken. They don't care. They're not replacing them because the chargers aren't making them money. The chargers are costing them money. When somebody's plugged in there taking the electricity out, it's not going back into the grid. That's my theory on it, and any common sense guy will come to the same conclusion as to what's going on there because they've been broken for 1 year and nobody's fixing them. So anyway, that's just one little tiny example. There are no chargers up here. There are a bank of Tesla chargers at the Canadian Tire. Okay, so in my little town where I live, there actually, I've heard stories, up at the college, they've got a set now, and they are popping up here and there, but that doesn't do us any help when we're going out of town down to Toronto. There's nowhere along the way, maybe 2 spots I can think of, that you can stop and charge. Yes, your vehicle is going to tell you where the chargers are and plan your route for you, the software that they have now. The problem with that, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, is how do I know that when I get there, there aren't 8 other guys waiting to use a charger that's already in use, right? And I hear now you can get about 200 kilometers in 20 minutes charge with these super fast chargers. Okay, that's still awesome. That's great. Yes, I believe we should all plan our trips according to that. Take an extra 20 minutes, have a little picnic with your wife and kids, whatever, right? It's not a big deal. If I can get on the charger and I'm not waiting for all these other people, is there a system in place that knows that and smart enough? Like if I call ahead and I book one of these things, what happens when I don't show up on time? Does it automatically give my spot to the next guy if I'm 2 minutes late? Like, how does it all work? I don't know. I'm leery about going full electric, but I might. So, where is Gary going with all this? Well, call me stupid. He likes the abuse. I'm going to go down to Mitsubishi and I want to talk to them about the 2023 PHEV today because I have 2 main questions. I want to know. I know the car is fantastic, right? I love my 2018. Let's be clear about that, guys. From day one, I have said that is one of the best things you can buy, a PHEV. Almost 5 years down the road, this car has had nothing wrong with it. So let's get that clear and straight. Gary likes his Mitsubishi. I hate my service, and I hate the fact that they're screwing us all for batteries, charging everybody, and that we have to take the car in multiple days every year to get this thing resolved, to get it reset. It's frustrating. My buddy drives, like I said, a Plymouth Pacifica, okay? He bought it a year before me. He has no issues with this thing. He's still getting 60 to 70 kilometers out of I believe it's a 14 kilowatt hour, or 14 or 16 kilowatt hour battery in that. And it's 5 years old and he's getting the same kilometers, which we will test at some point on this channel. So my questions today for Mitsubishi are, show me the car. So maybe they'll let us film that. We can take a look at it if they have one there. I don't know. Let's go see. Secondly, I want to know, is there new software in these new systems to deal with a new battery? Is it going to automatically drop this amp hourage? And are they charging for battery services? What does the manual say on the new 2023 in terms of service? Are we going to have to keep paying for that? Because if that is the case, guys, I will never consider buying another Mitsubishi again. I've already told them that. And the sad thing is I could be promoting these vehicles for them because I believe in them and I think they are freaking awesome. They are the perfect stopgap for guys in northern communities like this where we can't go all electric. However, you've got to have good service backing it up, and you've got to have the know-how to maintain what you're selling, and you need to know more about it than the guys buying them. And I've never felt from day one that is the case. I've always felt that being the guy that I am, running the channel I am, doing all the tests that we did on this channel, 80-some videos on the original car, sadly, I believe that we've known more. They can't keep a technician there. Every time I go in, it's a new technician, some new young guy. Some of them, one guy did a DB cam reset of my car. He knew what he was doing. Where did that guy go? Who's he working for? Because he's not there anymore. Anyway, let's go talk to Mitsubishi. I should mention as well, on the PHEV, it has been down to 0 degrees every morning for the last week. My engine is not coming on. It is not starting like the problem we had in the spring. So, is that because we have a lot more amp hours to use? Was it just a case of the battery being so low that the engine was coming on for some reason? Was it the automatic defrost settings that I turned off? Did that have something to do with it? I'm not sure. But the car is staying in electric mode without the engine starting, even at low temps. Okay, so I'm at Mitsubishi and there's no sales guys here yet this morning, but I talked to the service manager and he's telling me that he can't answer any of those questions either that I wanted to know about. Is there a change in the system, the software? Are people still going to be coming in for battery services every year? He said he'll know more in the next week. So now he did tell me, I can if I were to order one of these, you're within 6 months to a year out of getting one. So pretty much the same waiting list as everywhere else. You know, I'm not 100% which way we want to go. I'd like to see it. I'd like to just look at it. But I'm telling you guys, if this software thing hasn't changed where you got to bring the car in every year to get this battery looked at, no go. If they tell me they're canceling the warranty on this car, no go. So I think the odds of me ever driving a 2023, even though it's got the great double size capacity battery compared to this one, pretty much almost double, and a ton of new great features, you know, everything from bigger motor, bigger electric engines, bigger vehicle, third row seating, it's got everything, right? They've addressed all of the issues that I have other than this software battery thing, which I don't know. I can't confirm whether that's being addressed or not.